Hey guys, welcome back to the Wildcast. I'm your host, Calvin Coyles. It's been a while since we've done a podcast episode. When was the last podcast episode that we did? January? Wow.
I think we did one post-COVID.
Did we?
Oh, that's right.
We did post-COVID?
Yeah,
anyway,
it was like March, April.
I think it's still technically post-COVID. I don't think we've actually got out of COVID, so maybe that one was mid-COVID.
Well, post-COVID for WA.
Yeah.
Sorry to everyone else.
Sorry to Melbourne. You guys have just come out of COVID lockdown. By the time you guys are hearing this, you're probably back into COVID lockdown. Who knows? Anyway, it is now October as the time of recording this. The 29th of October, actually, which we're quite excited about. We've got a huge couple of things happening coming up this weekend. Obviously, huge weekend. You probably heard about it across, Channel 7, Channel 9, Today Tonight, ABC, SBS, Fox News, Self-Mastery, obviously. Weekend I'm talking about, our biggest one ever. Got about 150 registrations for the live event. On top of that, we've got about 250, 300 people Skyping in, Zooming in virtually around the world, which is going to be amazing. So that's a lot of fun, and obviously gearing up for a big end of the year. So excited to jump into this, and I think this is probably really considered, I would say this is season 2. So this is considered season 2? Do we have seasons?
Of the podcast?
Of the podcast?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, season 2 of the podcast.
We've got a new...
we have a newbie.
Yeah, a newbie on the podcast.
She's not new to podcasting, but she's new to our podcast, also known as Jade. You can call her Jade or Jade. We call her Jade.
Well,
Ash calls her Jade.
And then Calvin stole it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have Jade. She's now running the podcast, and that means that we're going to do more of these and less gap in between them. Anyway, questions, Jade. Over to you.
Cool.
So the first question comes from Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
How do you split your time and energy into all areas of life whilst running a successful business?
Oh, great question. So, how do I split my time and energy? I think that's actually a really important distinction between the two. I wouldn't put those two things together. So, a lot of people think that time is your most valuable resource, and to an extent it is, but we've certainly, I'm sure you've had experience before, Amanda, and I'm sure everyone listening has, where you've had a lot of time to do something but no energy to get it done, and vice versa. You've had like just a moment in time but tremendous energy, and that's what creates the shift. So I think that energy is more valuable than time, because you can do more with energy than you can just with time. So that's number one, to keep that in mind. What I personally do is you've got to understand that life is a series of values conflicts. And when you look at the things that you value, what we've got to do is put them in an order of most to least important. So for me, I'm big on my top 5 values and understanding the priorities that they place in my life. I'm also very fortunate in the sense that I don't have to make a major distinction between my intimate life and my business life, because obviously Ash and I, we run the business together. So we spend so much of our time together that we're in each other's pockets, so to speak. In fact, we're in the same office right now. So we're around each other 24/7. That really helps. It obviously has a damaging effect as well, which is sometimes it's hard to switch off and go between the two. But for me, I think that's important. So what I try to do is a couple of things. Number one, Sunday nights are really critical for me. So on Sunday nights, after Ash has gone to bed normally, I'll sit up and I'll do a review of the week that was, and I'll plan my week ahead. I'll look at the big rocks. We'll normally put in our training time straight away. For me personally, health and wellness is really important. So making sure I can get to the gym first thing in the morning. And so we'll normally get up at 5 and we'll get to the gym for 6. And so we've done that because I know if I try to do it in the afternoon, like today, I didn't go to the gym this morning. My plan was to do a training session at lunchtime. It's now 2:26, and that time's pretty much slipped me by. So I know that I'm notoriously bad for that, so if it's important, I get it done first thing in the morning. I then make sure as well that we allocate time to rest and recharge. So in my week, I know that Tuesdays is a really heavy work day. We've got 3 different training calls that pretty much go back to back during the day. Then as also on top of that, I play soccer on a Tuesday night, which is a bit of a social boys night for me, which is great release. But I'll come in and normally I'll be battered and bruised and sore, and maybe something's broken, and certainly I've lost some skin. And so what we do is Ash and I don't work on Wednesday morning. So we have a sleep in on Wednesday morning. We go to the office effectively at like lunchtime. So that's a great recovery pocket for us. And obviously we've designed our life in that way, so we can find a way to do that. So in simple terms, I start my week on a Sunday night. I design the week in advance. I look at all my big rocks. I put my important things for training and nutrition up front. I put them in the mornings to make it easy. We make sure we carve out time as well. And for Ash and I, it's the case of, to be honest, we don't really do a date night every week. We went through phases of that. We don't do that currently, but we will certainly spend a lot of time on Wednesday mornings together. We spend a heap of time on Sundays as well. It's sort of like our day where we do stuff. But then we'll also do crazy shit. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago, baby? We were at the Crown?
Yeah.
Just randomly,
10 days.
next week I booked in for 2 days in the middle of the week to go to the Crown. So we'll just do random little trips of recovery time as part of that. And then when I'm at work, I'm fully focused on work as well. And the new office has been really good from that as well, because it means I can sit in and I can get my stuff done during that period of time. So that's how I sort of try to balance my time and energy effectively. And, if you feel like you're out of balance, you've got to take control of that as quickly as possible. So that might mean working a little bit later some nights. That might be coming in a little bit earlier as well to get on top of stuff. There's going to be waves and ebbs and flows. And I think it's important. Imagine your time and your energy like the tides of the ocean. There's going to be a period of time where the tide is out and everything's all good. There's going to be other times when the waves are crashing in. You've got to sort of batten down the hatches. And that goes for every area of our lives. So, it's not about, did I do 5 hours this week with my partner? No, did I find a way to meet my partner's needs? And did I fulfill my obligations in that area? And did I fill my cup emotionally and physically? If I did, great. And if I haven't, I've got to make sure I step up and do that work as well. So that would be some of my ideas and insights.
Beautiful.
We might also put up actually a link, Jade, for the time management productivity masterclass that I did for our internal team.
Yep.
Maybe if we can
I'll
get
post
a,
that for
we get a
everyone,
link
yeah.
for everybody. We'll give you
Sure.
guys the slides for that because that'll hopefully help.
Cool. So the next question is from Mara.
Hey, Mara.
Should I be asking the organisers
Yes.
for their logo for building credibility? I've appeared in media and spoken on stage for events. Why is it important to do this?
Should I be asking organisers for logos? Like, she's spoken on stage for other people, and she's saying, should I be asking them for logos to promote for myself?
I think that's how it's interpreted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. So one of the key factors from influence, and if you've ever read the book by Robert Cialdini, which is called Influence, I think it's called Persuasion, is it called The Art of Influence, the Science of Persuasion? Jade will Google it quickly for me. Anyway, I think it's called Influence or Persuasion, and it's effectively looking at how people make decisions and how can we influence those decisions positively. So obviously, Mara, if you're out there and you're promoting your events or trainings or seminars or coaching, so yeah, effectively, we need to be able to create credibility. So to do that, it means that if other people have hired you, right, then obviously you must be credible because you've worked with all of these other people, right? So it just sort of goes without saying. Same thing with media endorsements and those types of things. So if you've been to a webinar of ours or a live event, I'll normally have like an as seen in banner, which is all of the different media publications. And by now it's pretty substantial, right? Fox, CNN, CNBC, ABC. We've been on radio here in Australia. I've been in Forbes magazine, Inc. magazine, Huffington Post, Business Insider, Entrepreneur magazine. So it's like, cool. What it does is it just establishes a sense of credibility. And more importantly, it gets rid of the idea that you're an unknown quantity, right? You're an unknown asset. So if I'm looking to work with you, I'm looking to buy from you, I want to know, is this person legit? And if you've been in these places, it's almost like they are saying that you are legitimate. So it goes a long way as part of one of the influences, one of the pillars of influence and psychology. So it's important for that purpose. So yes, as much of that as you can, testimonials, endorsements, references, etc. All of that's great.
Beautiful. So the next one is from Zahir.
Hey Zahir, what a nice name.
I'm struggling to find the motivation to keep my business going during these hard financial times.
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated when it's so easy to give up?
Yeah, great question. So, what's interesting about it is that the harder it is to keep going is often the reason why you keep going. And what I mean by that is, if it was just me and Ash, right? Or even to be fair, if it was just me in this business, I probably would have given up many times. But because I've got an entire team of people, and if I was to make the decision to shut it down, I'm not just shutting it down for me, but I'm shutting it down for Jade and for Ash and for Millie and for Jason and for Suze and for Ben and like everybody in the team. So I think part of it is we have to understand a couple of things apart of just motivation in general. So let's take the COVID element out of this and let's just look at what motivates people. So there's really 3 schools of thought on this. If you go back to early psychology with Freud, he says that you're motivated by 2 things, pain and pleasure. So effectively, if there's an idea, if there's a carrot at the end of the stick, then you're working towards a goal. It's like I can go through these difficult times because I know there's pleasure coming, right? Delayed gratification, right? Or it's really painful right now, but I know that if I let it go, I'm going to be in tremendous financial financial pain, as in bankruptcy, or I'm going to lose everything, well, that's a good reason to keep going as well. So that's Freud's interpretation. You then go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is more of a recent concept and construct, and then it's about self-actualization. So then you get the idea of going, well, providing that your business is at least meeting your basic needs, part of being a business owner is the idea of growth. I mean, that's certainly what it is for me. So by pursuing business and going through the difficult times, you are self-actualizing in some way. And then the third way of looking at it is really coming from the work of Dr. Viktor Franklin, who wrote a great book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he found that actually, in his experience, he's a Holocaust survivor who was in, I think, 6 different Holocaust concentration camps. And he found that, he said that Freud was close but not accurate, and Maslow was a little bit off the mark. He says it wasn't pain or pleasure or even self-actualization that motivated people, but how they shaped meaning. So I think that's important for you right now. If you're experiencing difficulties in COVID, well, this is either a tremendous setback for your business, and it's difficult because you can't open up, you can't run your normal business, you can't get your stuff in the same place, you can't sell in the normal ways that you could, and you could very easily focus on all the things you can't do. And that's going to naturally feel quite demoralizing, and it's going to naturally feel quite demotivating. The flip side is if you are in an ability, and it's not perfect for every business, but if you are in an ability to focus on what you can do, then maybe this is a tremendous opportunity for you to pivot. And I'll give you a great example. Jay didn't like the look of our calendar, so she's moved it. It was on the backboard here, but then she's moved it down at the bottom.
That was a great call. Good call. Thank you.
So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we had a calendar that was built for 2020. And I laughed at it when I was rubbing it out today, planning for 2021, because we were meant to go and do all these events. And obviously, prior to COVID, we were an events company, and then we can't run events. So what can we do? Well, I can build online trainings. And we've actually completely transformed our business. We've doubled our revenue. I think we've more than 5x'd our profitability. And we moved everything online. And we've gone from just working predominantly in Australia and New Zealand to now working in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, the United States, Canada, Europe, and the United Kingdom, and Indonesia, just to name a few, and Singapore and Malaysia. So we've gone global in this time, we've expanded our team, we've touched more lives, we've grown, it's been the best period of time for us. But that's only because we saw the opportunity, we said, okay, great, how do we shape the meaning? We can shape this meaning as we've lost everything. We can shape this meaning as we can't run our business and our events. And I know plenty of people that are in the events industry that have just buried their heads in the sand and gone, they can't do anything about it, so fuck the world, it's game over. But we said, okay, we can't run events, but we weren't committed to running events. We were committed to changing lives. We just did that through events. So we chunked up on our mission and purpose and just doubled down on doing what we did really well. So when you're in that place, well, then that comes back to you're always going to be more motivated when you focus on 3 things. And I want you to write this down. And for anyone that's listening, what can I do with what I've got in this moment now? If you want to feel demotivated, focus on what you can't do with what you don't have in the future. But if you want to feel motivated, focus on what you can do with what you've got in this moment now, or certainly what you think you can do with what you've got to get ready for the future moments as well. That's also important. And I know that some people will hear this, and there's also some people that are in a position where their business and their industry and what they do just simply doesn't lend themselves to any form of a pivot. And they are quite a black and white type of business. So, one of our dear friends, Shannara, runs a beauty business in Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, and she's been shut down for the majority of the year. So it's like, cool, do you really want to build an entire online beauty school? No, you don't. So then just fucking shut it down. Maybe, hopefully, take a bit of a break if you're in a good position financially, and batten down the hatches and hope that when you can open up, things can get better. But that's not always an easy place to be. But certainly what drives and motivates me is the idea of growth and figuring out a way to solve it. I just think of this as a big problem and I can figure it out. So I think that certainly helps me. When my back's against the wall, I'm really driven to get out of difficult situations. I'm far more motivated when the pressure's on than when it's not. I tend to find that I get a little bit lazy when things are a bit easy, so I enjoy that. But hopefully that helps whatever it's worth.
Awesome. Kelly has an interesting question. What's been your favourite experience whilst travelling, and your favourite place you've visited and why?
Wow, what a fucking great question, Kelly. So at this point, I've been to 52 countries around the world. I've done a lot of Europe, I've done a bit of Africa, I've done obviously a lot of Australasia, Asia Pacific, I've done the Americas, I've done Brazil as well, I've done the Middle East, so I've done a lot. But some standout places to go, if I had to pick, say, like a top 5, definitely New York City. That's a phenomenal, amazing city. Just got such an energy and a vitality to it, so I love that. Ash and I went to see The Lion King for my birthday while we were over there in New York, so that was a pretty special place. And that was just an amazing experience. Just love New York. Every aspect of New York's pretty special. And doing Soul Cycle. Jade, you like Soul Cycle. Then love London as well. Big fan of London. There's a lot of cool stuff in London. Yeah, just every part of London is just pretty special. It's just got a great vibe to it. I love Barcelona and the Sagrada Familia and the and Gaudi Park and just the Marina area is pretty beautiful there as well. Rome is pretty magnificent. We loved our time in Rome. Just so much architecture and history, and just there's an energy. There's something that you can't describe about being in some of these older cities. Loved my time in Kenya, although it was quite brief. It was only a couple of weeks, and I was living in the slums of Gorogocho, but that was quite an eye-opening experience. Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Copacabana Beach was incredible, and that experience of being there for the World Cup. I probably could give or take the west coast of America. It doesn't do a lot for me. I've enjoyed LA, but I've also not enjoyed LA. But by far, the Maldives is got to be the best. We've had the opportunity. We've been very, very blessed. We've been to Maldives 3 times. The first time we went, I proposed. The second time we went, we were planning for a wedding, and that was a disaster in the sense of where we had booked wasn't what we expected. But then our final destination, when we did get married, we flew, I think it was like 38, 40 of our friends and family into the Maldives for 5 days, all expenses paid in overwater bungalows. That was an unbelievable experience. So the Maldives has a special place in my heart, and as soon as the borders open, you will not see me. I will be on a plane to the Maldives as soon as is possible. So I'm very excited about that. So that will be it. But the best experiences when you travel are the ones that are unplanned. The ones where you just rock up and you figure it out. I find that it all happens off tour guide or off tour itinerary.
Awesome. So from Claire, we have, do you think having a business coach is a good asset? If so, how should I go about choosing the right one?
Call me on
support@wildsuccess.global.
I'll help you build some assets. What are you laughing at, Ash?
You just gave me a real mobile number out to everyone that listens to your podcast.
If you want a business coach, I'll help you find an asset, not a liability, Claire, okay? So is having a business coach an asset? Absolutely, it's an asset. Now, it's like if someone was to ask, is having a house an asset? Well, yeah, technically it's an asset. However, if you buy a house at a shitty time, and it's a shitty suburb, and it's a shitty house, right? And then you put in a shitty tenant, well, now it becomes a big liability and a pain in the ass. And the same is true for business coaching. In fact, it's the same is true for any coaching, right? Or any mentorship. I'm a massive believer in mentorship. I'm a massive believer in coaching, not just because we sell it, but it's because it's how I got to where I am right now. And I've had times where I've had amazing coaches and mentors. I've also had times where I've been, the mentor has been too far ahead of where I've needed them to be, and so it was almost premature. Know what I mean? So it is an asset if you get the right fit. If you get the right person at the right time, it's the right fit. But without a doubt, you need to have people in your life that have been there and done it before, that can see around the corner, that can help you understand where you're at and where you want to be at, and can tell you what's the next steps to take and what you should focus on, what you can't focus on. Because no matter how successful you are, at whatever it is that you're doing, you still need somebody to help you work on your inner game. You still need someone to help you go through the journey. It's a very lonely journey at the best of times, so having a mentor or a coach is very important for that reason. But no one knows it all. No one knows it all. And, I think about it as buying experience or really buying time. If I'm working with Dan, one of our mentors, for example, he's a guy that's got a $10 million a year company. He's got staff in 5 different countries, very established, serial entrepreneur. I'm having a conversation with him and I'm getting access to the whole wealth of his experience and expertise. I don't have to go through that journey because he's been through it. I'm just paying for access. So I think that's very, very valuable and important. But you need to understand you have different problems to solve. 0 to 100,000 in business, 100 to 500, 500 to $1 million, and over $1 million, and then certainly getting to $10 million. There's different problems to solve. So make sure you pick the right coach at the right time is very important. But quite seriously, if you need a business coach, reach out.
This is from my partner Adam.
Oh, what's up?
Yeah, the boy.
Hey, big dog.
How old were you when you knew you were going to be successful?
About 3 years old. I came out of the womb and I thought, fuck, you're going to get somewhere. No, Adam, I appreciate the question. So I remember from a very early age believing quite strongly in myself and believing I was going to be successful. And now, what I thought I was going to be successful in is not what I'm successful in today. But like, to give you an example, like, I think it was really clear to me when I was probably in like year 8, 9, or 10. I really remember year 10 was where I really got to the point where I go, oh yeah, I reckon I can make this stuff happen. So year 10, what's that, 15?
Yeah.
So I think by 15, my ego confidence was through the roof. But, you know, like when people graduate primary school, they normally ask, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And most people were saying, like, plumbers or you know, builders or you know, whatever the things. And I wanted to be either an actor or a lawyer. That were my two goals then, which for my school that I was in was just so absurd, right? And then I went to a specialist drama college, which obviously even further inflated those notions of grandeur. But, you know, I've always been very confident, always been very, very confident. I've always known I was going to be successful at something. I've always had that feeling. And that's really not, that doesn't come from necessarily, you know, an arrogant place, but really from a deeply spiritual place. You know, my family's quite spiritual. I believe for a long, long time that I've been here for a purpose, that I was put on the planet for a reason, and that sort of permeated through what I do. So I imagine from a very, very young age, I was super confident. I knew I was going to make things happen. I've just always had that about me.
Awesome. That's all for our questions.
Well, that's
today.
it. Oh, nice and easy.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking them, babe. If you guys have questions, please don't email me. Oh, sorry, please don't call me about them. Email us instead. Where do they email for questions?
Podcast@wildsuccess.global.
Podcast@wildsuccess.global. Send us through your questions, or check us out on the socials, which is at Calvin Coils on Instagram, at Calvin Coils official on Facebook, or over on our YouTube channel as well. We just dropped a new episode of our video log as well on YouTube the other day, which is super cool. So go and check that out. I think we just did the team bonding one. The Broom video log is soon to be released as well. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. We really appreciate you joining us back again here for the Wildcast. And until I see you again, be bold, have fun, go make an impact in the world, and we'll see you on the wild side.